Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kevin O'Connor,
I'm Tom Silva.
and we just wanted to welcome you to this afternoon's Insider Live. Thank you for being an insider. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Tommy and I are going to go for about 30 minutes or so answering questions as they come in. You guys have the opportunity to fire your questions into the comments section wherever you're watching this, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook, our private Facebook group for insiders. We appreciate all those folks who have joined that group. There's a few thousand of you already. Anyone else who's watching this who wants to get in on that, you can do that as well. And so we'll go through your questions, Tommy. We're also, cranking through this current season. Got a couple projects that we're working on, so maybe we give folks a quick update on those. We head back down to Narragansett tomorrow morning.
Yeah, back to Narragansett. We're going to be working on some of those custom wood-made storm windows, which are basically going to be made of wood with an acrylic glass in it, and we're going to see how they're made. Pretty simple feature, but it's really a wood storm window is authentic look for an old antique house. So trying to keep it.
We don't make storm windows that much anymore. When we put in a new window that are double pane, we get rid of the storms. But with this place, it's a completely different story.
Yeah. Well, the historical committee is very fussy down there. They want to make sure that things are done right. I mean, like the gutters that we put on the roof, not on the fascia board. That's historical. A lot of the brackets, the pennants, all the medallions, all of the detail, the color, the shingles, the scallop has to be an exact. It's a part of an arc of a circle. So we show how we made those to match the originals, and spacing and all that stuff is critical to the old houses. We love these old houses. We don't know why. There's something special about it, but it's the detail. The money's in the detail, and the perfection is in the detail to do it right.
And so, in this case, the reason we've got to put storms on is because we saved the original windows. Jeff Sweener's our GC down there. His crew's got an extremely talented group of guys. Riley Partridge, one of them, rebuilt, repaired all of the windows that would be saved, and built from scratch a couple other ones. But they were single pane, and they're going to remain single pane. So a storm window is kind of essential.
Yeah, absolutely. A storm window is absolutely essential. You figure, storm windows, I'd rather have insulated glass. Well, yeah, insulated glass is nice. Storm window is fantastic, but a storm window and a single pane glass will never fail.
So. It's true. Right? You're never going to get any of that fogging up between the panes, right?
Yeah, no, that's correct.
If anyone's here from the Historic Commission down in Rhode Island, I don't think you're fussy.
Personally, I've always enjoyed working with historical committees over the years. I grew up in a house that was built in the 1760s.
I knew you were old, but I didn't know you're that old.
I didn't build the house, Kevin. I did not build it.
Different fact.
But my father was a stickler for detail, keeping the old houses the way they should be, and so we dealt with historical committees so many times that you love to hear the passion that a lot of those people have.
Yeah. So that's one project going on in Narragansett. We've also got, and that's on TV, so you guys have probably seen that on PBS. But we've also got another one going on, a second one. Charlie is lead contractor on that, Charlie Silva. That's in Dorchester, a 3-decker, fire damage about a year and a half ago. The homeowner, unfortunately, was out for about a year, and hopefully we'll have her back in by early spring if we can get that thing wrapped up.
Yeah, it's too bad. Most of the damage on her house was little fire damage on the outside, but a lot of it is water damage on inside. So as soon as you get water damage, you got to open up the building, you get rid of whatever you can get rid of that mold will grow on, and then basically just trying to get back in and get things settled. And she's we're working at it now, and hopefully we'll have her in soon.
And hopefully that one, I think that probably will premiere on PBS in March, so folks will be able to check that one out as well. All right, Pops, ready for some questions? They're piling in. I got a stack in front of me. They keep coming in here as well. You ready to go? I'll take that as a yes.
I'm ready to go. I have to drink my tea, I have to drink my tea.
I just want to give a couple shout-out. Well, one shout-out, Brad Black, joining us on YouTube, a middle school counselor. His first time joining us, so Brad, welcome. He tells us that he's always promoting the trades to his students, which is great. Generation Next, near and dear to our hearts. So Brad, thank you for doing that, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for doing that.
Beth Chambers was one of the folks who wrote in, And she says, my husband bought a lathe this year and really loves it. I am the proud recipient of many of his bowls and wanted to ask about your suggestions for the best products and techniques for finishing a bowl to make it food safe. So you've been turning like a madman, Tommy. I don't know if it was COVID that drove you to it or what, but you've been putting out some amazing stuff.
Well, it's fun stuff. It's relaxing. I do it at night, usually later in the night than I want to do it, but it's one of those things I just get in the zone there and I get mesmerized by this. I think it's the turning gets me all going. But it's fun. It's relaxing. It's rewarding. It's great for gifts and stuff like that, and it's great to fine tune your skills. My first time I turned, I was in high school or junior high school, I forget, and I used to make some lamps and stuff like that. And then I kind of got away from it. And I'd turn things now and then over the years for our projects. But with the COVID thing, I broke out the lathe and started getting back into it. So it's fun. And now I have to buy another lathe, and I'm probably going to get a third lathe because my daughter Kate's getting hooked on it. So she wants to do it. So she's going to have it. And then TJ, my son, he's going to want to start doing it. So it's going to be a crazy time of spinning around and having good fun.
So what do you think about Beth's question about food safe? What do you recommend if you're turning bowls and you want to make them food safe?
Well, there are a lot of products out there that are food safe. I mean, one of the products I just happen to have here because I'm on my way down to finish up a bowl. I use this product here. It's Aches Abrasive Sanding Paste, and this is something that I do. And basically, once you've sanded your bowl with sandpaper, and let's say you're up to like 350, 320 grit, once you hit it with this paste, it's like putting on a compound on your vehicle. It will really shine it and smooth the surface. And then I got to think about the finish that I want to put on top of that, and I look for a product that says food safe on it. And there's a lot of waxes out there that you can use. There's a different brand right here, Aches Paste Wax here. And the benefit to the paste wax is it is food safe. The disadvantage of it is that if you want to bring that shine back over time, you're going to have to reapply it, which is pretty easy. I apply it with a paper towel, and then I wipe it down and polish it with a paper towel.
But why are you using the waxes and not like mineral oil? When we make cutting boards, you pulled out the mineral oil and we use that. Why wax here for the lathe projects and not the stuff that you use for cutting boards?
Well, I get more of a shine with the wax, and a lot of people like their bowls to have a shine to it. The mineral oil is actually another way to do it also. But when I'm into my oils like that, I want to be very clear that you have to be careful of what you do to dispose of the used rags or paper towels that you use, because you've got to worry about spontaneous combustion. I always have a bucket of water around, but you don't ever want to forget. Sometimes you could forget. And so that's why I stay away from the mineral oil in my house, just because I worry about spontaneous combustion. You know, somebody like Kate down there spinning something, and she might not know, put it down, put a pile there, and the next thing you know, you get smoldering rags. So that's why I use food safe waxes and stuff like that. If I'm not worried about food safe, then I use water-based polys. Spray them on. Again, I like the semi-gloss or the high gloss because I get a harder finish, and people like that mirror look, that shine back, and it really gives a lot of depth to the work.
All right, Beth, I hope that helps. Thank you for being an insider. Moving on to Michigan. This is from Bill, and he says, I have a brand new house. There is an issue, however. When I walk around the house, things shake. In the kitchen, everything on my island shakes whenever we walk anywhere in the kitchen. Holy smokes, anywhere in the kitchen. The contractor apparently did not put any bridging or braces between the floor joists. How can I stop the shaking? Looks like Sean Strickland is also chiming in on this one. He's interested in it as well. Mm-hmm. So that's surprising that anywhere in the kitchen, things on the island actually start shaking back and forth. That's a lot of shake.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. You know that building code, if you build a house to building code, you're building it to the bare minimum structurally to get by. And in that structure, you have an allowance that floor can bounce 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. If you bounce on it, it can move 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. That's why we always like to overstructure everything, whether it be walls, floors, roofs, ceilings. We always overstructure because we don't like the deflection that normally occurs in wood when you walk across it. And there's a few ways to stiffen it up. If you have an open joist bay area in the basement, you could apply another joist beside the existing joist, and you could do like every other one, which would turn let's say it's a 2x8, you'd turn it into a 4x8. And then you'd have a 2x8, then a 4x8, then a 2x8. That would make a huge difference. Obviously, if you put it on every one, it would really help. But any span that you have from a bearing wall to a bearing wall, any span that is greater than 9 foot 1 inch requires some form of bracing. Bracing would be in the midpoint. There's 3 different types of bridging. There's wood that's a cross, there's metal that's a cross, and then there's solid blocking where you jam a 2x, the same dimension, into the stud bay so it can't twist into that stud bay.
And if you do the crosses, Tommy, explain that to folks what that looks like.
Okay, so if you take, I'll draw you a little picture right here. If you take, let's say you have a 2x10 or a 2x8, and you put cross bracing like that in it right here. This would be 1x2, could be 2x4s. 1x2 is pretty common. So it's nailed to the side here, and it's nailed to the side here. So when you step on this, let me draw one more picture in here. So when you step on this joist right here, you push down on here. This is pushing this over to the bottom of that one. And this is pushing over to the bottom of that one. And it goes up and down across the room. So basically what you're doing is you're adding a stiffness to the floor of the group. If this is a metal bracing, there's a metal strap that comes on the top of this and the bottom of that, the top of this and the bottom of that. The difference is when you step on this pulls, tries to pull this one over and this one over, but the one on the other side going that way is holding them, which makes it stiff. If you put a solid block in between, when you push, it tries to twist it, and it won't twist. So it does stiffen up the floor. All it takes is one plumber or one duct guy to come in and remove one bay. You've now weakened the system, and it can deflect in the floor, but you still have help from the other one. So by removing one, it's not good, but you should replace it some other way with something.
Tommy, Sean, who jumped in on this question, he's got access to the first floor from his basement. Those are open bays. I don't know if Bill's got those or not, but let's just assume that they are. Kitchen, so he's got to go down to the basement. Are we just talking about going back in and choosing one of those 3 methods, putting the blocking in, putting the crosses in wood, or putting the crosses in metal until he feels like he's got a nice stiff floor?
No, the easiest way if he's got an existing open bay and he can put in the solid blocking, let's say if it's a 2x8 joist, then he wants 2x8 blocking, whatever that dimension is, and he wants to put them in there snugly. And you want to put, let's say, down the center of your span, you want to put one, then offset the other one back 1.5 inches, then offset the other one forward, then back, then forward. That is so that you can nail from the other side of the joist into the end, and then into the end on the one on the other side. Because if you stagger them up, then you got a toenail. And through nailing is a better system. You could actually use a framing screw or headlock screw right into the end grain, which would be the strongest. And if he's got any plumbing or ductwork in the middle of it, the problem with that is that's interrupting the break. So you can take like 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood, you fit them into the opening where it's going to go. You calculate where the holes are. You drill holes for the pipes. Now you split the board down the middle, So you have two pieces. It's split down the middle. You put one on top. Let's say there's a pipe here and a pipe here, for example. You put them in two pieces, and then you put another one on the other side. So now you have a block with a crack in it, but it still can't come out of the opening. Yep. So it's a little bit of work.
Okay. All right. Bill, Sean, hope that helps. Appreciate you guys being insiders as well. I'm going to move right on. Just want to say, Tommy, when you do the entire answer like this, you're looking from that TV show, Tool Time or whatever it was called. The guy next door.
Behind the fence.
Yeah, the guy behind the fence. That's your
That's Wilson, isn't it?
I can't remember. Is that what his name is? Wilson?
I think it is.
You probably watched every episode of that show.
Well, I learned everything I know from Tim.
Good. I bet. Laura Doyle has got a question. Thank you for being an insider, Laura. We moved into a new house in May, and nearly all of the bedroom closet doors pinch into the molding somewhere, and they have trouble closing. Are they hung crooked? Do we need to shim the hinges? Is there any easy fix to this problem? What say you?
What does she mean by pinch? Are they hitting on the side, or are they in other words, are they pinching? When she closes the door, does it want to push out? When it goes drape?
They pinch the molding somewhere and have trouble closing. So it sounds like all I have is what she wrote, but it sounds like when she's closing them, instead of falling into the reveal of the molding, it's hitting the molding somewhere on that sort of rectangle. So I'm wondering if she's calling the molding the jam. If that's the case, and if it's a scraping, then the door needs to be fit into the opening better. In some cases, you can basically shave or bevel the edge of the door. The leading edge of the bevel of the door should be, if you measured the inside of the door where it goes into the doorway first and the outside of the door, it should be about 1/8 of an inch narrower inside than outside. So as the door swings into the opening, the arc of that swing, that interior edge goes into the opening first. That's why it should be narrower. So you bevel the edge so when it closes, if that's what she's talking about. So she's got this on every door in her house. I'm presuming that they obviously weren't installed that way. Right. But maybe they were. But maybe you got some settling going on, presumably. What's the fix for her? Do you want her to trim down the doors? Do you want her to mess with the hinges? What do you think? Well, it depends. What I was going to get at, what my next question was, is this happening all through different seasons, or does it also happen in her heating season? If it doesn't happen in the heating system, the doors have shrunk down. If it happens in the summertime when it's humid out, the doors are swelling. That's why when you hang doors that are in a humid area, you always want to hang them when they're swollen, and you keep the seam or the joint that goes around the perimeter of the opening with the door closed as tight as possible, because when it shrinks, that joint will open up. Let's say they are sticking, they're hitting the edge all season long, all year long. Trim doors, mess with the hinges. What do you think? Again, if it doesn't hit that much, and she can get it latched, in other words, if she pushes on it, will it latch? Then you can bevel that leading edge of the door. If it hits and does it all year long, and she can't bevel the edge of the door, you're gonna have to take the door off, remove the hinge, and then make the mortise for the hinge to sit in just a little bit deeper. And then that will move the door over the thickness of the wood that she removes. It doesn't take much. If you take a nickel and you hold a nickel with the door shut, you should be able to put that nickel in any of the gap around the door, between the door, edge of the door, and the jamb or the molding. There should be a nickel gap right there between the door and the jamb. Okay. Laura, I hope that helps. Billy, who had the bouncy floor, got back to us. First, he said thank you very much, and he also pointed out that he does have access to the floor joists underneath from the basement. They're doubled up every other one under the kitchen, but there's no blocking or braces, and there's over 14 feet between the supporting beam and the outside wall. So did he say the height of the joist? He did not. Okay, so let's figure this right here, right up the top. If he's got them doubled every other
distance, and every other joist, he should take the distance that he has of 14 feet, divide that in half, that's now 7, add 2, that's 9. That means he needs a minimum of a 2 by 8, which is 8.5 inches by 1.5 inches. So he's really close to size if he's pushing a 2 by 8. I would go, if it was me and I took those numbers, I would take the 9, I would make it a 10. So 2 by 10s is what should have been using for that 14-foot span. Adding the blocking along with doubling up the ones that are singular will stiffen that floor up. If he doesn't have room to put blocking or adding a joist, he could take another sheet of plywood or buy sheets of plywood, take the plywood and rip them down 16 inches and put them parallel with the joists from one end to the other, creating a monolithic floor. But the trick there is, what he wants to do is he wants to take and put a camber in the floor, so raise it up. So if he took like 6 joists down the middle and he stood up a 2 by 4, cut it tight from the floor to the joist and made it a 1/2 inch longer, bowed the floor up, and then put his plywood on. And put it on as close as he can to that 2 by 4, and then just put a little piece in afterwards. And now, when he takes it out, the floor will relax and become like an airplane wing and really stiffen it up.
Where do you get this stuff from?
I don't know.
Relax and become like an airplane wing. What are you, like, metaphysical carpenter here? Settling, soothing?
Driving airplanes, I look out the window and I said, how's that wing built? Oh, I could use that on a floor system.
I bet you do. Laura Doyle, who had the sticky doors, got back to it. The bottom of the door hits the molding at the bottom, and there's a gap at the top. And yes, she meant jam, not molding. Sorry. So now we're hitting at the bottom with the gap on top, as if the door is hanging into that open.
Sounds like the door is either sagging off or it's settling.
Yeah.
The house is settling. And you can true it up. I don't know what type of a gap that she has, but she might be able to take gap. If the door is hitting on the knob side on the floor and not on the top, in other words, the gap across the top is a little bit wider on the knob side than on the hinge side, unscrew the hinge. Don't take the door off the wall. Open the door, unscrew the hinge, and take a little piece of cardboard like the thickness of a shoebox, and cut a little piece the size of the hinge, put it in behind the hinge, put the hinge back in place, and put the screws back in. And that little bit of thickness will take the door, pick it back up off the floor, and stop it from hitting the floor. If it's the other way, you may have to put a hinge at the top and bring the door over.
Yep.
If it's hitting at the top.
I've seen people use little strips of cardboard. I've even seen, I remember I don't know who showed it to us, but they were taking old paper matchsticks, ripped it out in there. It was sort of like just the right thickness of the thing.
If we did old houses, when I was a kid, we did our butts, the hinges used to come in a cardboard box, a little cardboard box.
Yeah.
And that cardboard box we used as fillers, because lots of times we'd go into old buildings and replace the hardware, but the doors needed to be shimmed, and we never threw the boxes away, because 9 times out of 10 we used to have to either double up or single or double or even triple up a filler piece, whether it's on 1 or 2 hinges, whether you need to move the door over, up, down, whatever. A little piece of cardboard makes a big difference in the world.
Tommy, let me do a couple call outs. Simon Salvin is saying hello from Nottingham, UK. How about that, Simon? Thank you for joining us. Michael Hackett from the Facebook group is saying, Tommy, please don't stop making home videos. You don't have any plans to stop doing that, do you?
No, I actually enjoying it quite a bit, having fun with it.
Michael Leiden from Facebook says, good afternoon, Kevin and Tommy. Let's see here. Adam from Facebook group says, I don't have a question, but I wanted to tell you this. I've been struggling with depression this year, and I started watching Ask This Old House and This Old House. Watching and learning from you all has made a huge difference. I've gotten into woodworking and really enjoy it. Thank you so much. Also, my sons Ethan, who's 9, and Hayden, who's 6, are big fans. How about that?
That's nice. That's
Very
nice.
nice, Adam. Yeah. Be well. Be good to yourself right there.
Doing woodworking is a great way to relax and relieve the stress and the tension. A lot of people are suffering from depression with this pandemic.
Being busy too. I mean, let's face it. Being busy.
It's very gratifying to build a little project, especially if you can build it with your kids. But you build a little project with them, and it's something that you can enjoy and you can look upon as saying, hey, I built this with my kid. This was great. And the kids always say, oh, look what I built with Dad, and so on down the line. Oh, Mom, it's fun to do it. I mean, I still today love doing it with Kate and TJ.
Kate's stepping up, right? I mean, I see her down there working a lathe. When I was over there when you guys were putting together the final, the panels for the dining room. What's the material? The thatching? I forget what that's called. The Wayne's caning. The caning panels.
Caning panels. Yeah, that was a fun project. Kate, that was a project where Kate said to me, "Yeah, I want to do something different in my kitchen. I want to change the look of it. I want to do something different with some caning on the walls." I said, "Well, all right. Well, let's do this. Let's build a wall. Let's build some doors, and instead of panels, we'll use caning in the panels." And she loved it. Yeah.
Are you going to tell people that Kate's behind making you a TikTok star?
Yeah, she's definitely behind it. It was her that wanted me to do some crazy things, and I'm saying, well, who's going to want to watch that crap,
What are you up to on TikTok? How many followers you got?
I think I got like 260,000 followers. I got it's crazy. It's crazy.
How do you have 250,000 followers on TikTok?
Yeah, I mean, how long have I been doing it that long? But it's I think people can just relate. You know what? The people can relate to having the fun, making a fool out of yourself. To me, life is like, who cares? If you want to make a fool out of yourself, have fun with it.
Tommy, you're going to appreciate this one. You know Caitlin, right? My daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Caitlin's the sneaky one, right? So she's clever. She tries to, get her way, but she realizes that I'm going to say no. And she realizes I'm constantly telling Luke, the oldest one, to get off TikTok, get off TikTok. So Caitlin's way of trying to sneak onto TikTok is she snuggles up next to me and she says, "Hey, do you think Tommy's posted any TikToks today?" So that I'll pull it out and give it to her. And then an hour later I come back and she's still, oh my God, I got paid. Anyway.
It's addictive, I think. I don't go on it much. I check things here and there, but I don't spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah, I bet. Max Rose from Vancouver, British Columbia gives a shout out. Season's greetings from him. Same to you, Max. Appreciate that. Brad Black on YouTube, who was the middle school counselor that we gave a shout out to. He has a question. Which trade in the next 5 years will have the greatest shortage of workers? Dang, that's a good question. You have any sense, Tommy, as to where we stand in the professional trades in terms of numbers, demand, and supply?
I think that people are getting back into the trades, but not fast enough.
Yeah.
And I think it's sad because a lot of I know if I go back to just people that I went to school with, a lot of them loved working with their hands, but they felt as if that there wasn't enough money in the trades and they had to go on and do a different profession. But more than once in a week, I could have somebody say to me, "Oh, I wish I love what you do and stuff like that. You guys are great and all this." But I always wanted to work with my hands, but I regret not following my passion. So,
yeah. Brad, I don't know the answer to it, but I will tell you that it's impossible to find plumbers and electricians. And I don't know if that means that it's easier to find carpenters necessarily, but it is.
No,
it's a longer path, though, Tommy, to become a certified licensed plumber or electrician than it is a carpenter. And that's not to say, you can be a carpenter, jump in and start working same day. The apprenticeship program is longer for plumbers and electricians. I don't know if that means
but in any of the trades, no matter what it is, let's think about it. If you're a young kid, you want to get into the trades. You think about it. So if you're going to go to college, you're going to go to college for maybe 2 years, maybe 4 years. If you're going to get into the trades, you're going to work on the trade. You're going to get paid. You're not going to get paid well, but you may work for 1 or 2 years and you're learning every day. And it doesn't matter what part of the trade it is, but you're getting paid. So by the end of that 2 years, you're probably making much better money than you first started. You're starting to learn how to work with your hands and use the trade that you wanted to. Lots of times people go into, let's say, be an electrician, and they get in it, they're in it for a year or so, and they say, I don't want to do this, I want to be a carpenter. A point in a person that is on our team, Mauro is from Brazil. When he came to the United States, he was going to be a carpenter. He wanted to be a carpenter. He was in there and he was doing all kinds of carpentry stuff. And all of a sudden, the guy that he was working for, I said, well, can you paint? And Mauro said, yeah, sure, I can paint. You know, he said, I didn't know that much about painting. But yeah, I told him I could paint. So he was painting. He said, and he realized, he said, you know what, I like painting better than carpentry work. So he was in a trade that he thought he wanted. He stuck it out for a while, and he just went to painting that he found by mistake and really enjoyed painting. So now he's a very successful painter with a good crew, and they do fantastic work. And the reason he does good work is because he loves what he does. He doesn't cut corners, and he gives the homeowners what they want.
It grows a damn good coffee bean too. Did you have it yet?
Yeah.
Mauro gave us all some coffee that he grows on his farm back in Brazil. Oof, so good. A couple more shout outs and then get to some questions. Tommy, you know we're out of time already, but you know we're going long, right? You up for going long?
I'm used to it with you.
Oh my God.
You know, once you start rapping, boy, we are screwed because you just don't shut up.
The holiday. I don't shut up. You just did a puppet show with Joyce for 30 minutes.
Did you learn anything?
I wasn't listening.
Oh my God. See, that's why people realize now, that's why they call me Saint Tom.
No one has ever called you Saint Tom. And the reason you're either late is because Sue's kicked you out of the house and you have nothing else to do down in the basement. Dustin Wright from Laporta, Indiana says, hello. Al Bober says, what's up, fellas? Michael Hackett says, we'll follow you everywhere, Tommy. We'll follow you anywhere, Tommy. So if they come up with a new social media platform after TikTok, they're going to go to that one as well. Chris Keeper from Facebook has a question. A question, Tom. Keep it short.
Okay.
I have a mid-century modern home, he says, with single-hung windows.
Mm-hmm.
The house has terrible airflow. Would replacing the windows with casements be enough of an increase to prevent increasing the window size?
So is he trying to replace the windows for better airflow? Is he trying to replace the windows for more light?
He's looking for airflow. So let's break this down. He has single-hung windows.
Yeah, that's cheaping out. Single-hung windows. A double-hung window was a sash on the top, a sash on the bottom. They both move. A single-hung window, only this window moves. The top is like a stationary picture window.
Right.
It's a little bit tighter and more efficient than a single-hung window because that's locked into the jamb and the parting beads.
No, so just so you can imagine that, at any given time, no matter how open the window is, half of the opening is blocked by the fact that the moving sash is in front of the fixed sash. So you've only got half the opening for airflow. And describe a casement for folks so they can picture the difference.
So let me go back to the double hung first before I go to casement. So if you have a single hung window, you want to let air in, you open the bottom window. Now it's not going to open all the way. I'm going to open the window, stick my head out. It's going to open up, and you're going to open up, say, 2/3 of the opening. So the air is going to come in. The top part of over the glass is higher off the floor, which is it's going to keep the heat of the house in the house. If you have a double hung window, you drop the top down about 5 inches. You bring the bottom up about 5 inches. You now have a natural convection that comes in the bottom, out the top, in the bottom, out the top. And you get better airflow automatically with a double hung window that is opened and correctly. As long as you don't have the storm window on the outside where the top is closed. A lot of people don't think about that.
And just so you know, Chris just chimed in and said, yes, in fact, he's talking about airflow. So you're in the right hunt here. Keep going.
All right. So now, like in my house, I have double hung windows. In the summertime, I drop the top down 5 or 6 inches, open the bottom 5 or 6 inches. We get tremendous airflow in the house because pulling the warm air out, constantly bringing the cooler air in. And the other thing is in the evening when the sun is down, it's even better to open up all the windows even more to let the air really circulate around. Now, if you're thinking about going into a casement window, then you want to think about the direction that the window's open. You got to think about the window and how it's going to open in that jam opening. Some windows will open and spin over halfway into the opening. Some windows will just pivot on it like that. The idea of it is you want to think about your winds and how you get your winds. You're going to open it a little bit. You're going to grab some wind when it goes by, but you're not going to get the natural convection that you would from a double hung window. If you're looking at a casement window that opens and swings over to the opening, think about that window. It's going to do two things. It's going to open. It's going to let plenty of air in, but now you can wash the window from here and here. So it's just something little.
When you have a casement and it is fully open, that full opening is exposed and air is coming in. Does that mean, but you don't get that convection effect?
You don't get convection.
In your opinion, do you think moving from an operational double hung, I know Chris has got a single hung, but moving from an operational double hung to a case, do you think the casement gives you more airflow? Because even in a double hung, you can only have half.
That's right. That's right. The casement will open up. That's what I was going to say. The casement will open up the entire opening if you want to be, and you can open it up and grab the window. So if you've got a nice breeze coming from the direction where the window can grab the air and suck it into the house, you're going to get a lot of air movement in that house. It's just a matter, does the style of the house call for a casement window? So
well, it's a mid-century modern, so I would say yes.
Okay, probably can, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's a nice clean look. You wouldn't have to have any, muttons dividing it, no divided lights or anything. So
right. I mean, we've done houses like shingle tile Victorians, where the addition that we put on, the details, the shingle pattern, everything was done with double hung, the look of a double hung window, but we had the manufacturer make the casement window with the simulated divided lights to look like a double hung window, a thick meeting rail, and then small lights of glass with individual. And so with the window closed, you never knew it was a casement window, and it fit right into it because we trimmed it both inside and outside the correct way for a double hung.
So I think, Chris, that confirms that you're going to do better off with casements for airflow if you switch it out from your single hung, and you can probably get something that fits with your mid-century modern. Andrew Almeida chimed in on this question and said, "Nice job on the voguing, Kevin." I want to say that I contribute here. I do contribute.
You do contribute. Then I just have to give people a little bit of tip about windows. The most important thing about a window in the wintertime,
short shell pops.
When you close it, you lock it. I can't tell you how many people say, "Oh, my windows are drafty, my double hung, my casements, my awnings, they're drafty." I go in there, I look at the house, I crank it in, I say, "Well, why don't you lock it?" It pulls it in against the weather stripping and seals it.
Douglas White is chiming in saying he's got to try that airflow trick in the summer. So you've served him well as well, Tommy. Jessica Lux, forgive me for pronouncing that incorrectly. Hello from Indiana. We love watching TOH as a family. Our 5-year-old little man has watched every single episode and likes to share his knowledge from the show with others. How about that, huh?
That's nice to hear. I love that kind of stuff.
That's one of the boys. Austin Anderson sent us a note from Durham, North Carolina, Tommy. He says, "I have some upper kitchen cabinets that need to be installed with a kitchen window that is above the sink. The cabinets are going to go on either side of that window. The window has not been trimmed yet. Would you trim out the window first and then install the kitchen cabinets, or install the kitchen cabinets and then install the trim? I think," he says, "he might want to have the trim, but right up against the cabinet sides, so there is no visible gap between casement and cabinets." Your thoughts and opinions, much appreciated.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Are the cabinets custom made? What size or how much wall space do you have on each side of that new window? What size is the window? How wide is it? How tall is it?
He says No, he doesn't. We have none of that information.
Thanks for interrupting.
Austin, if you can chime in here, let us know. But what's your point, Tommy? He wants to know whether or not.
The point is, this is the point. The point is, how much storage do you need? 6 inches on each side, that's a foot of storage inside the cabinets. So if you need every inch of storage, then you probably want to keep it as close to the casing that you can. But if the window is just a double hung or a picture window or an awning, and it's not a wide window, bringing the cabinets tight to the window or tight to the casing will make it more like a tunnel. If I have a single window over the kitchen sink and the 2 casings, I would prefer to take and put some wall space between the edge of the casing and the cabinet to broaden that space a little bit different so it's not so confining, especially if your cabinets are going to be dark. If they're going to be light, then that makes a difference. But dark cabinets will shadow it in. If it's a big window, like a bay window or a couple of double hungs, then if the trim is like 1 by 4, something like that, 4.5 inches minimum, 3.5, then you could put the cabinets tighter to the casing.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. I hope that Austin got it as well.
Good.
All right, here's one, Tommy. A little bit out of your wheelhouse, probably, but nothing's out of your wheelhouse. I'm just thinking, given where they are, we don't do this type of house that often, but you're familiar with it. This is Mark Jones from the Facebook group. Mark, thank you for being an insider. He says they have a pier and beam house question. The house is on clay soil that expands and contracts whenever it rains. I've gotten used to the occasional sticking door, but the cracks in the drywall, especially at the seams, make the rooms look ugly. Am I going to be retaping and painting forever? So, do you remember we had this problem in Austin, Texas, when we were out there? They also have a lot of clay soil, and they get those heavy deluges. But then most of the year they're bone dry. Remember the solution we used there?
Right. Yeah, you get so much water that water will just soak it out, and the building will expand and contract.
Yeah, and because those piers are just placed everywhere, it just starts to push them up right out of the ground.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then as soon as it dries out, I don't know where Mark is from, but as soon as it dries out, they literally, all that clay contracts and the piers drop back in, and that house is doing this, throughout the year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could give you all kinds of different scenarios and situations where that can happen, but I mean, the main thing is as far as the movement of the wood and the water and the dryness, it's pretty hard to stop Mother Nature. She's going to win that battle. As far as the checking or the cracking of the drywall, I would suggest that you go with a heavier tape on the joints, and then basically it's a wider tape, but it's much heavier, and sometimes even doubling it up. But I would probably scrape the joint out and run a bead of acrylic caulking down the joint, tape over the joint, and then compound over that, and that hopefully will stop some of the movement. It's like if you get like for example, old houses where they move, and you get a continuous crack over a door, and maybe where the casing needs to do, you get little crack lines that run up. So if you drag those out and you use a heavier tape, I've even taken a piece of metal, aluminum flashing, and run it over the wall, stuck it to the wall with compound, then go over that with the mesh tape, wider. Then the wall slides behind the foil, and it never comes back again. But sometimes just the thicker, heavier tape will also solve that problem.
The other thing that I would add for Mark's benefit, and you can check this out, Mark, because you're an insider, you can go back to our Austin, Texas series. You can watch this. We solved this problem exactly for the homeowners, Mike and Michelle. They put a bladder around the perimeter. We had access to the perimeter. We went in, we added some additional piers. We put a bladder to make sure that we kept as much of the moisture out from underneath the house as possible, so it was consistent. And you remember, Tommy, where they took the piers and they put the screw jacks in there permanently so they could make the adjustments with the sort of, as it kind of went up and down, they fine-tuned the screw jacks over a couple of seasons to get that floor nice and level.
Right.
Once that clay soil sort of got to its permanent moisture content.
Yeah, well, the idea of it is it kept water out of the soil that's under the house. That's the main thing right there. And it's like I say, it depends on how much rain you get because it could seep in there, and it is the enemy, that's for sure.
Mark, go check it out. You can watch that Austin series. You'll be able to look it up on the website as an insider. Go back and check them all out because insiders can look at every episode ever made. So thank you for being an insider. Question. One or two more, Tommy? You got enough for one or two more?
I got it. I'm ready. I'm here.
Michael Fagan says, good timing on this live Q&A. Thank you. I'm finishing 2 walls in my basement this weekend with studs and drywall. The walls, I presume he means the block walls. The walls currently have fiberglass blanket insulation nailed into the poured concrete. So not block walls, actually poured in the concrete. Should I remove this installation before he installs his stud wall? So unfinished basement, poured concrete, insulation nailed to it? I've never heard that before, but nailed to it, and he's going to build stud walls. What say you?
Get rid of the fiberglass insulation. Scrape the wall clean. See if it needs any sealer applied to it. Maybe a masonry paint of some type, like a water lock, something like that. You can roll it on the wall with a thick, bushy roller. That will seal it. Then I would probably get mineral sheets, maybe 2-inch thick sheets, and I would apply it to the wall before the studs go in place.
You're talking mineral wool.
Mineral wool.
Mineral, yeah.
Just stick it right to the wall. You can lean it up against the wall, but there's ways of fastening it. You can use a large plastic washer with like a rivet. You drill right through the mineral wool, and you don't need many of them. Basically, I would do it at the joint. So they're 2x4 sheets. You lay one down, you put another one on top. Right at that joint, you drill a hole right into the masonry, and you drive the rivet in, and the washer holds it. Then stud in front of that, against it as close as you can. Now you created a wall that you don't have to worry about moisture, you don't have to worry about bugs. It's insulated, and you don't now created also a thermal break, so you don't have to worry about any condensation occurring. And then you could then take the wall cavity that you have, if need be, you could always put a batt insulation in between the stud bay also. Again, I would use the mineral wool batts in that place. Now, you're going to do 2 things. You want to make sure that the sill plate is pressure treated. You want to make sure that the studs are straight and strong and true. And by insulating the walls with mineral wool, you will be amazed at how quiet and efficient the space will be.
You've told us in the past that mineral is awesome for below grade. It can get wet. It can withstand any of that kind of moisture. Perfect application for it down there in a place like that. So
and mice or anything, they don't like it. It's just they don't like it.
I don't like it. Hey, Chris Kiefer from Facebook group who had the Mid-Century Modern Home has a follow-up. He says all of
is he allowed to follow up?
I don't know. I guess so.
Of course, go ahead.
We'll give him a follow-up.
Yeah.
All of the ceilings are square tiles. How about that? Tiles on the ceiling. Any idea what the chances are that those tiles are asbestos?
So are they perforated for acoustics? The Celotex could be a Celotex product. Some of those older ceilings, it's usually under 12 by 12, could have asbestos in it. So if it's a smaller tile, it could have asbestos. I mean, I would get somebody to, before you rip it down, I would check it to make sure that there is no asbestos in it, if he wants to take it out.
Yeah, we've done this mitigation story a ton, and there's that, the 9x9 tile, floor tile, which is almost always asbestos, they say, which is the rule of thumb. And Ron Pike, who does the remediation for us in most cases, we talk to him, he's like, listen, it doesn't matter what the chances are, you need to be 100% positive before you start mitigating any of this stuff. So he's like, and there's only one way to do it, and that's to test it. You got to get a sample to a lab and test it. So Chris, speculating on whether it is or isn't really will just be a fool's errand. Get it tested.
Yep, exactly.
He did say not perforated. Says being an insider is the best money he spends every month.
There you go.
How about that? I'm going to do one more. and then I think we're going to wrap it up here. This one comes from a gentleman named Lawrence Warner. So, Lawrence, thank you for being an insider and joining us today. He says, Tommy, when you place a measurement on a piece of lumber, instead of marking a little line, you always make a check mark. Can you tell me what that check mark signifies? And he's writing us from upstate New York. So why that Yoda? Why the check mark?
That check is just to tell me if I checked my measurement there, and I did. The reason is because lots of times I'm marking lines. When I was framing a lot, I would take my tape, run it out, and I would go boom, 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 run my marks. But I always, when you run your mark, it's not a straight line. So I worry about 1/16 of an inch some cases, even if I'm framing. So if I run a straight line down, but if it's not, here's the edge, top of the screen is the straight. I'm square off of that edge. But let's say I mark a line and it's like this. So what part of that line do I want to cut my length? Right where I make the point of the arrow is the actual measurement. Do you get that, Sonny?
I do it. Of course I get it. You see me, I do it. I follow your lead. Everybody does it, right? You can't count on a single line. You got to draw two so that you have a point.
It's that point where it meets is where the accurate measurement is.
Yeah. You got to have the point. Otherwise, you'll be all over the place.
What's your point?
Exactly. All right, Lawrence. I hope that helps. We're well past our half hour. We appreciate anybody who is still sticking around.
Fun stuff.
52 minutes of this. Pops, plans for the holidays? What's going on?
Going to do something with the kids. My grandson hopefully will be around. We'll get together with him, and I'll probably do some turning.
No.
My wife is yelling at me.
No, I'm saying.
I know.
And TJ's.
Yeah, Kate and TJ and Jay. And Jay and Diana. Yeah. I always get corrected, Kevin.
Well, I was just going to say the next insider is going to be Stu and I.
What did you say?
Yeah. I said, Stu, I said the next one's going to be you and me, the boss of the house. I want to talk to the boss next time. Someone put the boss on. We've got 2 more days of work on the job site for us, and then we're off for a little bit for the holidays. We wish everyone out there who is an insider, who's joined us today, who's watching this after the fact, a very happy and healthy and safe holidays in this 2020. We appreciate insiders, the support that you give us, which is fantastic. We're thrilled to do it. Pops, I'll see you tomorrow, so I'll wish you happy holidays then. But the extended family, to the boss, tell the boss I said Merry Christmas.
I will, and you and your.
You're welcome, Sue. You're welcome.
And a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays to all that are listening, and thanks for calling, because this is always fun to do this.
You gave her the chocolate, right? You didn't keep that for yourself, did you?
What? What did you say?
You can never keep a secret, can you?
All right, everybody, signing off. Thank you once again for being an insider. We'll catch you on the rebound. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas.